The Arrma Granite 3S BLX and the team-associated rival MT10 are some amazing RC cars. And in this video, I'm gonna show you why that is. Now you're gonna see why that is throughout the course of this video, but you really need to pay attention.
Rev your engines!
But you really need to pay attention because which one of these you're gonna wanna get really is going to depend on you. Now, I'm very vocal about the fact that I love both of these cars quite a bit. So it's a very common question for me to get asked which one I like better. Now, they did just come out with a version 2 of this, but it's pretty much exactly the same car with a different body on it. Another very strong competitor here is the Red Cat MT10E. This definitely deserves its place among the two we're comparing today, but I want to leave that for a different video. Now, even though both of these are in the same class, 1/10 scale monster truck, and they're the same price, they're actually pretty different from each other. So you're going to see all the pros, cons, and differences between them, such as speed, durability, stuntability. Now, these trucks both have quite the reputation for being durable, and so far they have been, but I am probably going to take it up a notch in this video. Now, under extreme driving, we have broken this guy once before, and we actually just broke this guy for the first time just the other day. So obviously, before we can compare these two, we gotta fix it. And with the help of my brand new tool set from Naughty Boy RC, and of course, my trusty impact driver, we're gonna do that right now. This is actually an extremely simple repair. Check this out. Here's a simple trick so you don't forget where screws go. A little easier said than done, but once you unlock those fingers right there, it pulls out pretty easily. And finish with hand tools so you don't strip the threads in the plastic. And there we go. Good as new. Oh, nope. Still got this to put on. Well, I thought she was about to be ready here, and then I happened to notice a crack in the lower control arm. And she goes all the way through. Now, this is actually incredible news, because that means I get to try out this plastic welder that I bought probably about a year ago for these exact type of situations, and I have yet to use it. We're gonna see if it holds up. All right, accidentally touched the tie rod a little bit, but it seems like it worked. We'll just have to see if it's still together at the end of this video. All right, so we're gonna run this thing on 2S first, just so you can see how it operates, because both of these are rated for 2 and 3S. We've got a large can size, 3200 kV brushless motor with a heatsink and a fan on it. Also have a heatsink and a fan on the BLX 100 ESC. Runs on an EC5 connector or an IC5. We got mostly plastic. Actually, I don't have to go over that because both of these are pretty much mostly plastic. Plastic is a good thing because metal bends, and when it bends, it tends to stay there. Plastic flexes and then just springs right back to its original position, at least a lot of times. We've got similar tire sizes, but the granites are a little bit bigger. I also put all the spacers that the car came with onto the shocks to give it that extra spring tension or spring preload. If you don't plan on doing a whole bunch of jumps, I wouldn't put all those spacers in. That'll help keep the suspension a little lower. The truck is pretty good at not flipping all the way backwards, but it does wheelies very, very well. We've got plastic drive shafts, and the differentials are plastic. They're a tough composite material. Now, I don't take it easy on the throttle of this thing and have yet to have any gear issues. I know I will one day, but you can get metal upgraded gears for it. I had to re-glue these tires in a couple of spots. No big deal. That's pretty common. I have not ever had to do it to this one, though. We got plastic links, but metal turnbuckles for the upper control arms in front and rear and the tie rods. Definitely interested to see how that repair holds up. We're going to use this high voltage, high capacity CNHL battery for our 2S runs.
Let's go!
Losing control a little bit there. All right, we're just gonna put our speedometer down here. $33. This is just 2S. That is amazing power for 7.4 volts. Ooh, right in front of the mailbox. As you saw, this is even a insanely performing car on a 2S battery. Now we've got that 3S in there. And you'll see when we get to the rival, it's still a monster, little more tame, but it exceeds in other places that this one just doesn't. Well, I did the worst thing I could have possibly done. Did a bunch of awesome stuff with the Granite on 3S, and then nosedived it. Did a bunch of bad stuff, but the worst part is my camera was turned backwards. Nosedived it super hard, like right into the concrete from way up there. You saw those 2S jumps. This was a full speed 3S jump. Oh, boom. So the camera was looking behind me the whole time. So what happened was it completely bent this thick piece of aluminum here. It's the motor mount. I already put it in the vise here and bent it back, so I think I'm gonna be able to get it working again. The motor mount is actually integrated into this entire spur gear slipper clutch module. You have to pull the motor out with it. It took me about 4 minutes. This is probably one of the easiest cars I've got to work on. Broke the ESC mounting tabs too. I'm gonna have to put some washers on there or something to help hold that on. All right, I got her back together. I don't know if you can see that, but the plastic housing warped as well. Can't bend that back. So we're just gonna try it. More 3S. Oh. Oh my gosh, this poor thing. All right, well, definitely put it through the ringer. The plastic weld did not hold up. However, I can definitely see it working in certain situations, just maybe not on an ultra stressed part. Still, after all that control arm never broke. So how that broke, I don't know. I mean, that must have been one heck of a hit. Anyway, got this guy rebuilt here. Well, not rebuilt, but just bent that metal piece back straight, and it's been okay. It's been working fine. One thing to take note though is that neither of the fans are working anymore. Fans are many times the first thing to go when you do crazy stuff. All right, well, there is still more to go over on that, but I want to get on to the rival, so we're gonna do this. 3,300 kV compared to this one's 3,200. Keep in mind, this one does have the much bigger can size. That does give it the advantage. Also a much lower amperage ESC. I believe these are 60 amps. But at the same time, it is a bit of a lighter car. Similar in the fact that this is mostly plastic with your metal adjustable links. The Granite has much stronger and less flexible plastic. The rival has very, very flexible plastic, and that gives it an advantage in the opposite way. I mean, it doesn't look like we've had any plastic stuff break this time, but we're going to look at that more in a minute. Since the Granite, I have the springs fully preloaded. I'm going to go ahead and fully preload these as well, which you do just simply by turning these down. It's threaded shock bodies. Now, a big difference between these two is that this one has an actual center differential, not just a slipper clutch. The center differential offers much more slipping and power transfer between the front and rear wheels. That gives it a very large handling difference, and you're gonna see that here in just a second. It's quite a bit harder for it to flip over because the car is much better at transferring power between different wheels. Granite is gonna have full power to the rear wheels all the time. The Rival can actually transfer that power away from the rear wheels into the front wheels, depending on where the most rolling resistance is at the time. And that just helps it stay planted on the ground. Big old wheelie bar. This one also has a broken on-off switch, so I have just, in a sense, hot wired these wires together, so as soon as the battery hooks up, the vehicle turns on. All right, so again, we're gonna start with the 2S here, that extra voltage. It's the same battery, that way we know we're getting a fair comparison here. Only difference is we have to use an adapter because this car runs off of a Dean's plug. $25.9. Wheelie bar's okay. That was a direct hit. All right, I think it's time for 3S. 40.5. You see that avoidance maneuver? Wow, that was a loud one. But tomorrow is 4th of July. See how well this thing stays planted? Ow! Oops! Whoa! Oh! Notice how it sounds a little whiny? Got a little extra high-pitched whine to it now. I'll show you why that is in a second. Oh. Pretty loud. Oh. Man, at this point, you know, the Granite broke something. I'm trying to get this to break something without purposely crashing it. Oh, oh. Did we get something? definitely a gear. What? It fixed itself. That's awesome. Avoidance. Oh, there it is again. All right, so there were a few clips in there that weren't from today. That was mainly just to show you some of the capabilities of these that I maybe didn't catch on camera today. So these are really similar. More similar than I thought, actually, even though I've had this one a lot longer, but I've had them both a good amount of time now. A couple things did break on here. Front bumper, still attached, but not very well. And we did actually crack the wheelie bar. And I'll probably try that plastic welder on it. I have now confirmed that that gear slip is in the front differential because I can see the drive shaft right there not spinning and the front wheels are spinning and of course not spinning the rears. And then looks like one of our body posts here, the screw just pulled out. I just have to drill that all the way through and put a nut on the other side. By the way, these are the batteries that I use. This is the 3S. I'll put a link in the description. I love these batteries. They're doing very well for me. And then this is the 2S, and same thing. I haven't used it as long, but feels very quality. It gives you that extra 0.2 volts, which kind of seems to give you about 1 mile an hour of extra speed. Performance-wise, it was pretty close. I'm giving it to the Granite because, again, it is a little faster on 2S and 3S. It can do double backflips, which I was not able to get this one to do. Both of them are real good at front flips, landing. Both have really awesome suspensions. Oh, and by the way, on the Rival, ESC fan still spins. Doesn't even make a weird sound. It's like it's brand new. This body I have previously reinforced with drywall tape and shoe goo. Really adds a lot of strength to the body. I haven't done it to this one. I should have when I first got it because we do have some cracks. It's still been pretty good for what I put it through. Now this motor is a lot smaller, gives pretty similar performance. Again, it is slower. You can tell it's got a little less power, but it's also a lighter car like I mentioned earlier, so it does very well on this chassis, in this platform. Both of them though, even though this one's got the extra fan, of course neither of those work now, but it's got the extra fan, a massive heat sink, and this one has no heat sink on the motor itself. They both get hot on 3S. Both respond very well to the controller, but this is a better controller than the monstrosity that this one comes with. There's just no need for something so huge and weird shaped. I just prefer that one for sure. Both are really good at doing wheelies. Now I see we also broke the bumper of the Granite. I don't know when that happened, but it was still doing wheelies just fine when I stopped, so it's who knows how long it was broken, but it definitely wasn't broken before today. With that higher speed of the Granite, it also jumps a little bit higher. Yeah, it's pretty expected. So if you're going for higher speed, bigger jumps, and being able to do double backflips with the stock electronics, I would say you should get the Granite because the durability of these two seems pretty similar. Also, never had any of these tires on the Rival come unglued. I had to re-glue a few spots. Oh, and there's a little rip happening on the Granite earlier today. Now, I personally believe that the Rival wins when it comes to ground handling. I think that center differential really gives it a great advantage over the fact, you know, I explained a lot of it today. There's all kinds of scientificals that go into it, but it just stays planted quite a bit better than the Granite. Also, the Granite's taller, and also, because the Granite's faster, jumps higher, and it's a little heavier, and maybe even slightly bigger, that's gonna cause it to brake easier, because force, momentum, velocity, all that stuff. So you've just seen everything I've broken on the Granite. On the Rival, I've had this one longer. I have broken the wheelie bar once before. This is the second time. This motor mount I have also bent. You can see it there. You know, it's a lighter weight motor than that one, but it's a much thinner motor mount. I have had trouble with this screw loosening up, causing the mesh to change, and that's why it gets extra whiny Remember, it was getting whiny, and I told you I'd tell you why. That's because the slamming into the ground of the chassis forces this out of alignment, and that tightens up the gear mesh between the motor pinion and the spur gear. With that adjustment here, you can go with a bigger pinion if you wanted to. I have not tried that yet. We have a plastic spur gear, and I believe that is the only plastic gear on the truck. I just noticed something. My front differential cover broke, which actually has happened before. It's hard to tell, but you can see right there the mounting ear has broken away from the cover. You can actually see the differential ring gear right there and the pinion. Now those gears are metal. Again, in here they're plastic, so that's an advantage for sure. I've never had a gear issue out of any of these, including the plastic spur. Again, I'm sure it'll happen, but it hasn't yet. But anyway, so I've broken that twice now. I have broken this frontward chassis piece, which they call a skid plate. Broke about right there under extreme conditions. I did break a shock one. Well, I bent the shock rod on it one time. All I had to do was replace the shock rod. The lower control arms are a known weak point. I did break one of those once. These are the RPM branded ones I replaced it with, and I have yet to break one of those. And I have never broken the rear one. The rear ones are still stock. Another thing worth mentioning is that the MT10 has sway bars. You can see it right there. It's got it in the rear as well. The Granite does not. Some people say it doesn't help, but in theory it should. They're also both really easy to work on. I can't really say one is easier. So if running around on tracks and maybe even doing races that aren't straightaways, this might be the better car for you. Really, it's a tough decision. I still don't know that I know which one's my favorite. You can't go wrong with either one for sure. So it's really up to you. Are you gonna do big jumps and high speed stuff? Or are you gonna do more like handling maneuvers and still be able to do awesome jumps and high speed stuff? Well, obviously I can't make the decision for you. They both are good looking trucks in my opinion. Personally, I do like the version 2 body a little bit better. Let me know which one you like more down in the comments, because I am genuinely curious. I'd appreciate if you like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, click the bell for notifications, and share this video or other videos on the channel, because there's a bunch, with someone else who you think might be interested. Also, if you're interested in either one of these or still haven't made up your mind, I do have 1 or 2 more videos on this guy, including just the initial review, but I made it fun, and I've got quite a few videos on this one. I pretty much never take it easy on my cars, and between these two, not a lot has broken, especially when you consider what I do to these poor things. Man, if it's this loud on July 3rd, July 4th is gonna be nuts out here.